saw last night. Um, some stuff to say about Moulin Rouge. And then after that, we're going to talk about Avatar, which is the Avatar from 2009, which I watched last week. And I have thoughts. I have thoughts. Welcome, Doyle. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, let's just jump right into this, John. Start with Moulin Rouge. Welcome, Corey. Welcome. So Moulin Rouge. Uh, if any of you have seen the movie that came out, like, gosh, like literally 20 years ago, it's amazing. I love that movie. I love that movie. I love that movie, babe. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I've seen it a dozen times. Going into this show, I knew it was a jukebox musical because the movie's a jukebox musical. Um, it's a great movie. Welcome, Caesar. Welcome, Caesar. Um, I don't really like jukebox musicals. For those who don't know, a jukebox musical is basically a musical like on stage that has like real songs, like real pop songs, and usually they're bad because the writer usually writes the story around, like they add the songs first and then put a story around the songs, and it's usually like super crappy. So I'm not a fan of them, but I knew that they couldn't mess this up, right? They could not mess Moulin Rouge up, right? We'll get to that. I it's yeah, the Broadway original Broadway cast recording was, it left a lot to be desired. For one, they added so many songs, like, because I listened. The show's been out since like 2019. I think that's when it like opened on Broadway, and the cast recording's been out that long too. And when I heard it, I was like, how do you mess up something so perfect? Like the movie Moulin Rouge was just like the perfect amount of like pop culture songs, but they just like multiplied it by like five. There were like five times as many in this. I'm like, why? Um, Before we get into the actual review, I do want to point out the actor that's playing Christian, that played Christian last night, is Derek Klena, who I saw in Anastasia on Broadway a few years back, and he was amazing in that. So, and as soon as I saw that in the playbill, I was like, okay, well, at least he's gonna be really good, and he was very good. Let's talk about the premise. So Moulin Rouge is about a club in France. I want to say the years like in the 1820, maybe a little later, like the 1890s or something in France. Maybe even a little earlier than that because they talk about revolution in the show. So that makes me really think it really is the early 18th century or early 19th century. But yeah, it's a very sexy burlesque club that puts on like great huge shows like cans. Um, and it used to be very popular, used to have a very big heyday, but now it's losing money. Now they don't have money anymore. So the club owner, whose name is Zidler, is trying desperately to make the club money, and he promises the headliner, who is Satine, a beautiful, amazing performer named Satine. He promises her hand to a wealthy duke, which she agrees to because she wants the best for the club too. And when trying to meet the duke, she mistakes Christian for the duke, right? So she's trying to seduce him, but then realizes he's not the duke, but they still kind of fall in love at first sight. So it's really beautiful. uh However, they have an agreement between the two of them that, oh no, I need to like I'll just be like, Christian will just be her lover. They'll just be in love with each other, and she can go marry the duke and do her duty, but as long as we could just be in love, and it's so sweet. However, you know how that works. When there's like another man in the picture, people get jealous, and it happens. Christian gets jealous. The duke was also kind of a dangerous person. He like, when the last time he was made a cuckold of, he like freaking murdered the guy that the girl was cheating with, as well as like had acid thrown in the girl's face. So Satine's just like, ooh, this is bad for us. So then she breaks Christian's heart, for his own good. And then the movie and the musical kind of diverge pretty sharply at that point. Like in the musical, Christian kind of just like gets banished from the theater, but still comes back. I don't think in the I now I'm like doubting myself now because I don't think in the musical or in the movie he wanted to like kill her, because in the musical he wanted to kill her, which is weird. I don't remember that from the movie, but maybe that is what happened. I just remember like Christian showing up at opening night and like saying, "Love me, Satine," and Satine's just like, "No, I can't." But then she starts singing the "Come What May" song, and then he sings it, and then they reaffirm their love for each other, and then she dies. But like I just recall it being a lot more, I don't know, smoother in the movie. I should just rewatch the movie. Anyway, let's get into the show, y'all. Let's start with the good. Let's start with the good. The set and the scenic design of this show is unfreaking real, y'all. Like, holy crap. Welcome to the stream, homie. It is amazing. They use a lot of perspective. I don't know who the scenic designer is. I want to know. They must have won a Tony, because like this set is just one of the most incredible. I've seen a lot of Broadway show, guys. I have seen literally 30 Broadway shows. This is one of the most incredible sets I've ever seen in a Broadway show. They use a lot of perspective to like convey depth, to convey like distance. It's just really, really well done. The colors are really, it's a very monochromatic. It's funny because the show, the foreground of the set is very colorful. Like the action that we're seeing is super vibrant and colorful, but the background is very monochromatic. You know, it's very grays and blacks. You know, they do a really good job of color management in the show to make sure that your eyes are being drawn where they need to be drawn. As well as the usage of lights. The light, oh man, the lighting designer of the show, man. Oh god, it was about as good as the scenic designer. Those two people working together, they made magic. They made magic, guys. The costumes and the wigs are also insanely good. It's so funny. Like the biggest downfall of this show was the book. It was the damn story, which is such a shame because literally every other detail of the show was top tier, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Like, holy crap. The costumes and wigs, I wanted to like snap pictures because that's at the top of the show when we're right before the show begins. The players, the ensemble, are all dressed to the nines as in their can outfits. They all look amazing, and they're all just kind of in character walking around the theater. Oh, hello Kitty, hello. Welcome. Thank you for the likes, my love. Yeah. Oh shit. My stream die? Yep, the stream died. Okay. Alright, I guess I'll keep recording. That sucks. Okay. Well, the stream died. Anyway, the costumes and wigs were insane. I really wanted to snap pictures of them. I really wanted to snap pictures of the players because like it was just incredible. My god. Yeah, the ensemble dance numbers were very clearly the standouts. That was very clearly the selling point of the show, were these huge numbers that they would do with all of these insanely talented dancers and singers, quite frankly. Like, holy crap, they're all so talented. I was just so shocked. Well, I wasn't that shocked. It was fucking Broadway. I love everybody's talented on Broadway, but I mean, damn, like, it was just it was like remarkably good. It exceeded my expectations. Because I mean, you always expect when you go on Broadway to see like big flashy numbers, but these were like flashy to the level of like actually like leaving me aghast in my seat. You know, it was remarkably well done. So yeah, the performers were in general top tier. Our Satine, the Satine that we had in our show, was Oyoyo Joy, who is actually the alternate. I came to find out. I was like, she's the alternate? Like, what the hell? She was so good. She 100% was the star of the show. 100%, like vocally, star power. She commanded the scene, every scene she stepped in. Like, holy crap. I couldn't, oh my goodness, she was so damn good. And I could not believe she's the alternate. She's not even the main Satine. She's the damn alternate. Like, holy shit. Like, if she's the alternate, the main Satine must be like, holy shit good. Like, oh my god. She was so damn good. Derek Klena as Christian was really good as well because I knew he was gonna be good. I will say I had a lot of trouble connecting with him on in Act One. Like his Christian was just very. It felt very robotic to me. I'm not gonna lie. His Christian did not feel emotion. I didn't feel the emotional grabbing from his Christian in Act One. Act Two, he fucking brought it home. But in Act One, I was just like, damn, this is like really stilted. Like he's a great singer, but I mean, I just can't connect with him. He reminded me too much of like, kind of like a happy-go-lucky type of guy. If you've seen the film, the Moulin Rouge film, Christian is supposed to be like this emotional, overly romantic artist, you know? Like he's soft spoken. He doesn't have a commanding voice like this. Like Derek Klena kind of had a commanding voice like this the entire time, and I'm like, that's not Christian. Christian is supposed to be like, love is a many splendid thing. Love lifts us up where we belong. All you need is love. Like he's got like a very like soft voice and an emotional voice, sensitive, you know. And I feel like the way that Derek was presenting Christian at first was like so different from what I was expecting that it just took me out a little bit. But like I said, he brought it for Act Two. He brought it for Act Two, y'all. Zidler, who was kind of like the ringleader, the host of the Moulin Rouge, was really, really well cast. Like, holy damn. You might as well have just like freaking plopped him right out of the movie. He was Zidler. He was Zidler. Holy crap. Like, he made me laugh my ass off. He made me freaking go, wow. Like, he shocked me. And he even made me cry. The only time I cried in the entire show was a very tender moment between him and Satine when Satine knows that she's gonna die soon, in days, but she forces herself to go on anyway to save the Moulin Rouge as well as to get Christian's beautiful music out into the world. And they have a beautiful moment where he's kind of saying goodbye to her, and it was extremely tender and it made me cry. That was Zidler, y'all. I was super shocked and very excited to find out that the person that played Zidler in our production was Eric Anderson, who also played Cal in Waitress, which I saw on Broadway years ago. And I loved him in that. That actor has so much range because Cal is a very, very different character than Zidler was. So he has a lot of range. Eric Anderson, I'd like to see him in more stuff. I was not feeling the Duke. I was not feeling the Duke really at all in Act 1. Not because the Duke is a villain. Your girl loves a good villain. I think he was kind of a really poorly written villain. I think the show did not do him justice at all. It's funny because the actor that played Duke, his name is Declan something. I'd never heard of him before last night, but the actor that played Duke was extremely talented. Like, he can blow, he can sing, honey. And I was grateful that they gave the Duke things so that I could hear him sing. At the same time, pretty much all of what they gave the Duke musically in Act 1, unfucking necessary. It could have gotten cut. Like I said, the guy is talented, so I'm glad to, and he's got like a swagger. I think maybe that's the reason why I like couldn't buy the Duke so much, because like in the film, the Duke is like a Weasley ass, unattractive old guy, and in this Duke, he's kind of like young and sexy and suave and stuff, and I'm like, am I supposed to like, is he supposed to be the villain? Because I feel like I'm kind of rooting for him a little bit here. I think that they really, really mismanaged the character of the Duke, but the actor that played the Duke, he was so damn talented. We'll talk more about the writing a little bit later. I really loved the extra depth they gave to Toulouse. Toulouse in the film, I think, was played by Jean Leguizamo, and he was kind of playing a little person. Like, they like digitally changed him so that he was like a little person, and I don't believe he had quite this, maybe he had some semblance of the same backstory as they portrayed in the film or in the musical, but they added depth to it. Like, they made it so that Toulouse and Satine were childhood friends, and they gave a lot of Satine's backstory, and they made Toulouse and Satine like very close friends, and they gave them the two of them shared two of the most tender moments of the entire show, and I really loved that. I really loved that depth. It's funny when they first showed Toulouse's scene with him like doing his backstory. I actually didn't like the scene. I didn't like the scene. I was like, ooh, this is a little bit unnecessary. Ooh, yikes. Like I liked it after the scene, but like, cause I was listening to what he was saying and I was like, okay, that's kind of nice. Although I wasn't totally sold on it until they came back to it. I was afraid that they were giving Toulouse all this extra backstory and they were gonna throw it away, but it was actually ended up being really, really well utilized. But yeah, I really, really like that extra little warmth that they gave Satine and Toulouse. Santiago and Nini's like little like love tryst I thought was actually really funny. My boyfriend came with me and he actually didn't like that little side plot, but I really liked it. I thought they handled it pretty well too. Like they kind of showed they kept it in a little bit in the background, but they like if you were paying attention, like you could see that romance happening kind of all through Act 1, and it kind of culminates in Act 2 into like this like sexy dom sub relationship between the two where Nini is just like dominating him and he's just like a total simp for her. I really love that. Honestly, I wish I saw more Nini. I really liked every time she opened her mouth. I was like, damn, I really wish there was more Nini in the show. She's so sassy, and I really like they kind of hinted that there was like a rivalry between her and Satine and that she wants to be the star instead of Satine. I wish they would have leaned in on that a little bit more. I wish they would have like focused on that side plot instead of like the Duke one. Like, I mean, I know why they had to keep the Duke side plot, but there were some magical things happening in the film in the musical that I really wish they would have leaned on more because they were stronger than what they went with. Let's talk about some of the amazing sequences. There is the Absinthe Sequence in Act 2 was a really well done sequence. Holy shit, choreography wise, again the set, the lighting, it was really well thought out, that entire sequence, like where Christian is like chasing the idea of Satine even though he's trying to use the absinthe to forget her. God, it was such a really well done, and I knew it too when I was watching. I was just like, oh my god, this is what I'm gonna remember. I'm gonna remember this scene because this is really extremely well done. The opening numbers in both Act 1 and Act 2, very clearly the flagship numbers. They were very clearly what, like, they're the Broadway. They're what the showrunners want you to remember. They want to wow you, and they wowed me. Honestly, the second act opener wowed me more than the first act. Just like, again, with like the insane light, there was some insane shit they were doing with the lighting that I was like, whoa, this is blowing me away. I mean, gosh, not even to mention the damn dancing. Like, holy shit, the high kicks that these ladies were doing, honey, they were like literally kicking themselves in the fucking nose. Like, oh my god, they were slaying. Like, my god. There was another like song that could have gotten cut, and it was pretty much the second song that they gave the Duke in Act 2, where it was the Only Girl in the World song. And you make me feel like I'm the only girl in the world. That one, which is cringe. It's like the reason why it's cringy because like they just kept throwing top 40 songs in here, and I'm like, oh, stop doing that. But for some reason, the song worked. This song really worked, and he sang it really well. Satine blew the roof off with her solo in that song. Like, it ended up being a really good song, even though narratively pointless. Narratively fucking pointless. They did not need a whole fucking song for a proposal. But I still loved it. Like, it was just really well done. And then finally, Roxanne, which is funny enough, that's my favorite song from the movie. So I was very much looking forward to it. And I was actually a little bit nervous because I knew they changed it, because they changed a lot. And they added so much extra shit to the show. Thankfully, they actually kept Roxanne a little pure. They actually added more of the original song, like "Turn on the Red Light." Like they added more of the song to it. It was really well done, and at the end of it, Christian just like is just belting. He's belting. He like sings. I'm pretty sure that was a high A he sang. Like oh man, Derek Klena, like he murdered that song. He killed that motherfucking song. I can only imagine how it would have sounded with Aaron Tveit. I think I did hear that song in the studio album, the original Broadway cast recording, and I recall hating it. I feel like I hated what they did to it. And now I'm starting to think, I think the cast recording was like a little bit botched. I think they like made some unfortunate like mixing choices or something with it, because it did not do the show justice. Excuse me, hearing the singers in the show, just like, oh man, they were all so good. It did not do them justice. And I know Karen Oliva can blow. I know that Aaron Tevitt can blow. I know that they can fucking sing. So I think it was just the cast recording was just a little unfortunate. Let's talk about the not so good. They did way too much with the jukebox songs. Like I said, like the original movie had those. They had the right amount. They did not need to add more. And not only did they add more, they added like 5 times more. Like if there were 20 songs that they like sampled in the show for, like maybe, yeah, like 20 songs they sampled in the movie, it was like 100 songs in the musical. They did not need to do that much. They did way the fuck too much with it. And it honestly, like, for one, like like the vast majority of the songs they added did not even add anything dramatically to the show. It did not add anything to the narrative. And I'm like, that is my beef with jukebox musicals, because they just want to put the songs in there. And then, here's the reason why. It's not even because like in the movie they masterfully used those songs to tell a story. The story was there first, and then they added the songs after. They did the opposite with this. They just wanted to keep adding songs in. And the reason why they did it is so that the audience could recognize the song and go, oh, yeah, I know that song. They totally forewent any sort of like dramatic essence that was there before. And it really is. It's a very melodramatic movie. But you're very invested in the characters, it's very, you care about them. But in this one, like they were so gimmicky with it, with the songs, like that. It totally, like, all you're hearing, like when they're having a really like emotional moment on stage, and suddenly like, I think you're crazy comes on, and the fucking audience laughs. They laugh right after like a really gut-wrenching scene just happened. Now the audience is fucking laughing and singing along. Oh my god, don't even get me started with the audience members singing along. Like, ooh, oh, like, honey, I've spent $200 on this ticket. I did not spend $200 to hear you sing it, honey. Let the performer sing, baby. Now, come on now. Like, it was just, it could have been done right, but it's the biggest thing. It's the biggest beef. And it's funny, this issue isn't even with jukebox musicals. There's like normal musicals that are the same issue, where they hire on like an insanely famous musician to do the songs. Like in Aida, Elton John did the songs. The songs were fucking amazing. The book sucks. The book sucks because they wrote the songs first. Like, you can't write the songs first. Like, and then try to like fit a story around the songs. That does not make for good theater, man. It doesn't make for good theater. The first act was incredibly weak. In fact, like, that's why, like, and after act 1, I was like, ooh, this show sucks. I was like, ooh, we're gonna have a really bad podcast tomorrow because this show's bad. Thankfully, Act 2 is miles better than Act 1. Fucking miles better. Even though, like partway through Act 2, it kind of even starts going downhill too. But, God, Act 1 was such a disappointment. It like, with the character introductions were extremely oofed a little bit. Like, it was just very, the musical didn't really know how it wanted to tell its own story. The storytelling was really not great, and the pacing was really weird for Act 1. Like, if you're calculating how much of the movie was covered in Act 1 versus Act 2, I would say like the first 20% of the movie was covered in Act 1, and then they like jammed the whole rest of the movie in Act 2. That's why Act 2 felt so rushed towards the end, and that's why like maybe like around like 50 or 60% of the way through Act 2, it started going downhill because they just started fucking rushing a lot. Like, the whole ending was botched. We're gonna get to the ending in a little bit. The writer, like, they were originally trying to tell the story framed through Christian's eyes, which is what they did in the film, where Christian is narrating. Like, let me tell you a story about love. Which is fine. I think part of the reason why I didn't buy this is going back to Derek Klina's, like, kind of presentational performance. I'm Christian, and I'm gonna tell you the story about Satine. And I don't know, something about that really didn't sit right with me. Like it took the tenderness away. It did not feel like he was an emotional bohemian. It felt like he was like a protagonist in a big Broadway show like Catch Me If You Can. Like it really felt like which is hilarious because Aaron Tveit, who originated the role, originated the main character in Catch Me If You Can. So it's kind of hilarious that like the role feels like that. I didn't see Aaron Tveit do it, but I can only imagine that is how he like did the role too, because like that's what it felt like to me, and I'm like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. It felt cheeky. It felt cheeky to me. It didn't feel like a love story. It didn't feel like it was gonna like set up a tragedy. You know, I was kind of wanting it to feel a little like Hadestown, because Hadestown is a love story and a tragedy. You know, and Hadestown is extremely emotional, extremely tender, and extremely warm, and I did not get that. I did not get that from Moulin Rouge, and it's funny. The movie will give you that. The movie feels like that. The musical didn't. The musical did not feel like that. And it was a little bit unfortunate. And I think that lack of warmth is also why I wasn't really buying the chemistry between Christian and Satine. I got it a lot more in Act 2. Like Act 2, like it must have been much easier for the two to like really like feel in love. I did not buy love at first sight between them in Act 1. I didn't buy it. And it could be because like Satine Oyoyo Joy is the alternate, so maybe Derek Klena is like just used to performing that with Ashley Lauren, and maybe like that maybe they just I don't know what the disconnect was, but I just didn't feel that they were in love really until like partway through Act 2, which is not good because it's about love. It's about them like being in love. So I thought that was a bit of a flub. The pacing is so weird. They really stretched out, because the Act 1, if you're familiar with the film, Act 1 starts at the top of the show and ends at the end of Elephant Love Medley. That's like 25% of the movie. That's like 20 minutes into the movie, but they stretch that out to like an hour and 15 minutes. Like, it's so weird how they stretch that out. From the opening number to the point that Christian and Satine meet was like 25 minutes of runtime in the show. That's weird. That's 25 minutes of like virtually no story yet. Like no story, just still spectacle at that point. That's such a weird choice to me. It was great. It was very entertaining, but I'm like, there was no story. There was no story. It was also really weird because they were like trying to make Christian do the narration, but they were also having Zidler do some narration and character introduction. The show was just really confused at who they wanted to tell how they wanted to tell the story. And it's funny because this whole narration framing where somebody's narrating the show, they kind of abandoned that in Act 2, which is weird. I'm like, why would you start the show with that and don't come back to it? Like it's a very odd choice. It's a very odd choice. We spent a lot of time in the elephant bedroom in Act 1. About I want to say half of Act 1 was spent in Satine's bedroom, which is that's a lot. And I want to say it's because like for one, her bedroom was probably the most complicated set in the show. Like she had the most going on in her bedroom. I think his loft was also pretty complex with how much was going on in there, but I think the reason why they spent so much time in her bedroom is because the set was so incredible. Which not a good enough reason, IMO, but it is what it is. I thought the impromptu musical audition, because the idea is that like in her bedroom, the Duke comes in and sees Christian, and they have to like play it off like, oh, we're doing an impromptu musical for you, and we're trying to see if you'll invest for us, and they had to like come up with like a musical on the spot, and that's such a great number in the movie. And it was a good number in the show, but it was a little rushed for me. It was a little bit not delivered, especially considering how big and flashy the other numbers in the show were. Like, I feel like they kind of shoehorned this one a little bit, and I'm like, damn, that was a really fun number in the movie, and I don't know, I felt like it didn't do it justice. There were a few odd moments throughout the show. The ending Act 1 with Elephant Love Medley was a weird choice. It was a weird choice to me. The unfortunate part, and I'll give them credit for this, I don't really know where in the story you could have ended Act 1 that would have made more sense. I actually think they probably didn't have much choice on that, because I just don't know where else you could split up the show. So maybe that's what they were working with. Maybe that's the reason why the pacing was so weird for Act 1. There was also like a dream sequence toward the end of that song, because at this point in the song, Satine and Christian have fallen in love. And there's a dream sequence where they're like in a ball gown, and they're like there's like a smoky stage, and they see stars everywhere, and it's the Statue of Liberty. For some reason that did not they replicated that on stage, but it did not translate well to me. It was very weird, the transition to it. It didn't feel right, the transition to it. I think if somebody had never seen the movie, like, they would have been like, oh, we're next to the Space Needle, or the Space Needle, no, the Eiffel Tower now. Like, it was very weird. I knew what they were doing. They were calling back to the movie. They pretty much did exactly what was in the movie, but it was a very weird transition. It didn't help that right before that transition, they like threw in a mini scene between the Duke and Zidler, talking about the Zidler saying, I own the theater and I own Satine, which I'm like, that really kind of killed the mood, because the whole song is about love, and then you're just gonna like kind of throw that scene in there in the middle of their song and then transition to this dream sequence. It was a very weird choice. And it kind of, as a result, the Act 1 closer like really kind of fell flat for me. When the song ended, I was like, oh shit, that's Act 1? Oh, okay. Okay, fine. It was a really unfortunate choice. Let's talk about the ending. Oh, the ending was so bad. Oh, the ending was so fucking bad. For one, it was extremely rushed. Basically from the moment after Satine breaks Christian's heart to the end of the show was just a total hot mess. The I Think You're Crazy song was performed well. It actually ended up being a pretty cool song, but starting with Christian singing just that song specifically was like, I think, played for laughs a little bit, which was unfortunate, because it was supposed to be a really, really emotional moment in the show. The logic of Christian his actions after that point didn't make too much sense to me. I know that they were trying to mirror a scene in the show within the show. They were doing a show within a show where like Christian was playing Satine's lover, which is hilarious because they're really lovers. And there's a scene between them where Satine's saying, oh man, I have to reject you, and Christian's just like, he pulls out a gun saying, well, let us die together, or some shit like that, and that's in the show within a show. So I think they were trying to mirror that with him getting a real gun with the intent to just like kill her and then himself or something. I don't know, man. And not to mention like the whole confrontation between the two of them all the way up to the point where she dies lasted about 5 minutes. Like, the whole climax of the fucking show lasted 5 minutes. I was like, what the hell is this choice? Like, why would you... like, they had, like, the song right before all of that was longer than the actual climax. The I Think You're Crazy song was longer than the actual climax of the show. It was so odd. Not to mention, it was a very sad moment. Satine dies. It's supposed to be really sad. Tell me what they do. They fucking go into their bows. The bows is a big flashy can number. We just watched a really sad moment, and then they're gonna go, can you do the can? Like, it was such a weird choice. The whole last 20 minutes of the show was just such a goddamn mess. And it was like, I was already like kind of fed up because the story itself was already kind of bad throughout the show, and the writing was already kind of shit. But like, Act 2 really, really redeemed itself. I was like really blown away for the first like 35-40 minutes of Act 2. I was like, oh shit, this is so good. And then we get to that moment, I'm like, oh no, it's bad, no. Like, it just totally like fucking negated all of the great progress they made in Act 2, and it just like made it put the button on a really not good show. It's just total mess. What is the verdict? If you're looking for a deep, well-written story, like top-tier theater, you know, with compelling characters that you really care about, a really good storytelling, you know, you're not going to find that in this show. You're going to be sorely disappointed. Don't fucking go to the show for that. If you're looking for a very big, flashy, fun show with great dance numbers and extremely great singing and just great showmanship, go see it. It's a good time. It's a good time. That's all it is. That's all you should be expecting from it. Do not expect more from that. And that is Moulin Rouge. Let's talk about Avatar. So I rewatched Avatar from 2009. Going into it, I had not seen I had never seen the movie a second time. I only watched it the first time in 2009 when it was in theaters. And I remember I liked it. I remember I thought it was awesome, but I never watched it again after that. Like I think I tried to watch it, but I didn't get anywhere near, like I got 20 minutes into it and it fell off. So this is the first full end-to-end second rewatch of it that I ever had. I recalled that the movie was had extreme commercial success mostly because of the revolutionary VFX technology advancements that the film had. It kind of started a precedent for motion capture and visual effects that is now industry standard, and that's hugely impactful for the industry. But I do recall the story not being very impactful. I recall people not really caring for the story too much because the story kind of wasn't very good anyway. I was very shocked to realize that some of the actors that were in it, especially some of the actors, it's funny because I watched it all those years ago, and I knew like the bigger actors like Sam Worthington, Zoe Saldana, Sigourney Weaver. I didn't realize that Laz Alonso was in it. I kind of actually verbally screamed when I saw that because he plays Mother's Milk in The Boys now. So I was like, what? I was very shocked that Laz Alonso was Tsutse. The premise. So, for those that don't know, the premise is pretty much like Pocahontas. There's a planet that's in a different solar system that humans went to mine their minerals to bring back to Earth, which that doesn't totally track because I feel like too much time. How are they going to get back to Earth in a timely manner? It would take like 45, 50, 60 years to get back to Earth. And at that point, everybody that wanted the materials are dead. So I'm like, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense now that I think about it. But let's welcome back to it. Unobtainium. They get there. There's already indigenous humanoid creatures living there. They colonize the fuck out of it anyway and say, I don't care about you and your home. I still want your unobtainium materials, which dumb name. Then Jake Sully is generic white, square-headed white guy, brown-haired protagonist, goes in and like is a spy for the humans, and he like gets into their tribe very easily, mind you. We'll get to that in a minute. And then he falls in love with the chief's daughter, and then they fuck, and then the humans try to like betray them, and then he has to like admit that he was the spy. They banish him, but then he comes back to them again very easily. We'll get back to that too. Then they fight the humans, and then they win, and then he becomes one of them. That's the plot. It very generic, very much like Pocahontas. Very stupid plot. Let's talk about the good. The VFX holds the fuck up. This is like 13 years later, and the VFX is still cutting edge. It's kind of incredible. There's a lot that is advanced, like mostly with like nature. So like water VFX has very much advanced. So that was a little out of date. The creatures that they would animate were a little bit out of date, but we'll get to that a little bit. They get a pass for that, and there's a really I'll just talk about it. So the creatures that were not humanoid did look pretty bad. Not bad. They just didn't look photorealistic. Whereas the Na'vi if you look close to their skin, they look photo fucking realistic. And the reason for that, we'll get in a little education mode for VFX, is that human skin has a lot of reference because we're human. So we look at our skin, we have a lot of visual reference on what human skin looks like. So it's easier to translate that to Na'vi skin because you just tint it blue. It is difficult, if not impossible, really, to make. It's probably not impossible now, but at the time it was probably pretty impossible to make a photorealistic made-up creature, because that made-up creature doesn't exist. There's no reference for that made-up creature. So how can you make a photorealistic like dog monster when there is no dog monster? So that's why I give them a pass. Technology has advanced a lot. And I think now, today, it's a lot easier to make a more photorealistic creature, like a made-up creature. And I think we're going to see that in Avatar: Way of the Water, the sequel that's coming out in a couple months. I'm very excited to see that. But that is why I give them a pass. The VFX in general is extremely still very, very cutting edge. It's very much still holds up 13 years later. Act 2 of the movie was extremely good. It's funny because like Act 1 was so bad. Act 1 was really bad, and I was like, ooh, this is cringy. Oh man, the story sucks. But Act 2 actually was super, super good. It gave me those goosebumps. How I know that the way I know a movie or a TV show or something, some pop culture I'm consuming is good, is that it gives me a feeling of goosebumps. I start feeling tingly under my skin when I'm watching it, and it gave me the tingles. You know, from Jake earning respect back from the tribe because he became Turuk Makto, which, I mean, I'm sorry, like it just was a little bit fast for me, considering like he just betrayed them and they lost their home tree directly because of his actions, but they just like forgave him because he's like a mystical like ancient, you know, warrior, which I'll buy it because that's their beliefs, that's their tribe's beliefs. So sure, if that's something that I give them a pass for that. I won't give them a pass for letting him in the tribe at all, like in the first place. We'll get to that in a little bit, but that one, I'll allow it. To the Na'vi, like uniting all the clans from land to sea, that was pretty epic. I was like, oh man, that's so cool. You see all the Na'vi come together. You have this epic ass battle in the air and on the ground. Not to mention Awa, their deity, sending all of the wildlife to help when they were losing. Like, that was so awesome. I was welling up with emotion at that point. And even like a tender moment at the end of the fight between human Jake and Neytiri. Like, you see like her saving his life. Like, that was a really tender moment. I really loved that. The lead actors were pretty good for the most part. A lot of the performances weren't good, and I don't even think it was their fault. I think it was the writing, because the writing was a little bit not great at some spots. But Sam Worthington's Jake started out pretty stilted, but once he fell into the actual avatar, he started warming up a lot, and he started really feeling the character. And I think maybe that might have been intentional. Like, they were trying to make him seem like a military jarhead, like, oh man, I'm a Marine, and this is Marines do, at the beginning. And once he started like kind of stop caring about that, like, and actually like feeling a part of these people, he really started warming up to the character, and he became a very good protagonist, I think, at that point, in my opinion. Zoe Saldana's Neytiri always felt natural. In fact, all of the actors that played Na'vi, they all felt very natural. And it makes me think that it might have been a direction thing. Like, maybe like James Cameron very much intentionally told the people playing human characters, be assholes. Be stiff assholes, because humans are stiff assholes and the Na'vi are very natural and fluid, so they should be natural. Maybe, which is a choice, not a great choice, because it makes for bad characters, because quite frankly there wasn't really a single human character that was sympathetic. Sigourney Weaver's character was great, and Jake became good, but only after he became a Na'vi. So I think James Cameron probably like actually directed them to do that, because I don't think he wanted you to like the humans. I think he very much like wanted you to dislike the humans in this, which a little too on the nose for me, in my opinion. I think that he could have had a little bit more nuance with that, but that's just me. Sigourney Weaver's Grace was lovely. Like we loved Grace, and I think that was intentional. She was supposed to be like the one human that we actually liked. And it was really sad to see her character died, but we have not seen the last of Sigourney Weaver in this series, and we'll get back to that shortly. Let's talk about the not so good. The first act was really bad, guys. The ultra military, like, it was very, like, almost satirical. It almost felt a little like Starship Troopers to me, like with how like much they were pushing the oorah-ness of it, and I really think that was intentional. I think James Cameron was very much trying to get you to not like the humans, and that's why it was not appealing at all. And I just thought it wasn't. If that was his intention, it was a little too on the nose for me. I wasn't really into that. But once we got into the avatars, like, and got away from the humans, like, it got better. It was just weird. The Na'vi accepting Jake so easily did not sit right with me. Like, the way that they portrayed the Na'vi was that they were, like, naive, like very, very naive, and I'm like, I don't think that did them justice, because they're an established society. They're not stupid, you know. They have like values, and they're very traditional, and they're very like to the earth. That doesn't make them fucking dumb. Like they like they really portrayed the Na'vi as just like gullible bastards, and I thought that really wasn't fair. Because they portrayed, I mean, they clearly showed that they like they're not stupid. I don't know. I was really not cool with that, because how the scene happened was that like they didn't trust him at all. They said he's an outsider, let's get ready to kill him, and then all of a sudden he says, I'm a warrior from the Jarhead clan. And then the chief was just like, oh, he a warrior? Oh, okay, well, we like warriors, you're welcome now. Like, it was that easy. It was literally like that. And I'm like, come on, really? Like, it was such a mess. I don't know. I really did not like how they did that with the Na'vi. The passage of time is really unclear. It is unclear how much time is passing, because a lot of the Na'vi, including Neytiri, can speak very good English, but it's suggested that it's been less than 10 years or so. 10 years feels long. I don't know how much time has passed. It's suggested that they only know English because Grace taught them. And there's lots of adult Na'vi that know English specifically. So I'm like wondering how long ago Grace had that school of theirs. How long did she have the school? And then how long ago did she stop going? Like, it's really unclear, like, the backstory of it all as you're watching it. And I mean, I think they could have spent a little more time on that, like establishing that. That's a pretty nitpicky thing. I don't think that's super necessary with the plot, but it was something that I noticed. Unobtainium is fucking stupid. Not only is the name it's stupid as fuck, but like the fact that like it turned into like an American's oil drilling plot. And it was so cartoony too, like that corporate asshole guy that like was saying, get those natives off that land so I can drill into it and get my minerals and make my corporate people happy. It was so cartoony. Like, he was so unbelievably dickish about it that I was like, this is taking me out of it. This is like a fucking cartoon. His whole character was just really stupid. And not only that, compliment him was the ultra military guy, who was also a really cartoony villain. Like, he was just like a villain for the sake of being a villain. You really didn't understand his arc. Why is he doing this? You know, why is he so gung-ho about killing these natives? You know, why is he not? It's just weird. And then also why are the other Marines doing this? Why are they willing to die for this? Like, why are they willing to die for this fucking mineral? Like, it was just such a weird motives. Like, the motives of the humans were so unrealistic to me that it really fucking took me out of it. Like, and then not to mention, the whole reason why they were gunning for the Navi's home tree was because it was supposedly like sitting on top of a huge deposit of unobtainium. Here's the thing, they explode home tree and knock it down, and then they don't even mine it. They don't even fucking mine it. Like the next scene we see, like it's just looking like smolders. Like they don't even go like right after they blow up Home Tree, they just go straight for the next like sacred holy spot that the Na'vi have. Like their whole motive just goes out the window. Not to mention that like the military guy like takes control or something. Like the company's not even in control anymore. Like it really kind of like the humans kind of totally go off the rails in the second act, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Also, LOL at the corporate asshole guy gaining a conscience only after committing genocide. Like he just like ordered them to blow up the Home Tree. Everybody's begging him not to. Like there's people you're going to kill so many, you're gonna murder so many innocent people. He's like, nah, I don't care, I want the unobtainium. And then right after he does it, he looks all solemn and like regretful. Why are you feeling regretful after you killed them? You could have stopped. You could have stopped it all, but you didn't, bitch. Oh my god. And also, why the fuck does every movie that Michelle Rodriguez is in, she plays a badass character and they kill her off? Like that's not a beef specifically with this movie. It's just like every movie she's in, she plays a badass and they always kill her, and I hate it. Anyway, Avatar holds up in the VFX, and Act 2 is very fun. Definitely worth a second watch if you haven't seen it in 13 years, but it's not the best movie ever. And it's very interesting because like James Cameron just keeps like pushing that it's just such an influential movie, and it is in the world of VFX. It is not anything past that. It's not. It's just not. It's a fun movie to watch. It's not Oscar bait, if you know what I mean. Anywho, that is Avatar, and that's our topics for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. All right, y'all. Bye.